Krakatoa is a volcanic island located in the Sunda Strait between the islands of Java and Sumatra. Before 1883, Krakatoa was made up of 3 volcanic cones, Perbawatan in the north, Danan in the middle, and the largest Rakata in the south. By this time, most people believed that these volcanoes were extinct, but from May 1883, reports of volcanic activity started to trickle in. People from the islands around Krakatoa felt tremors and heard explosions. Sailors traveling through the waterway observed smoke and ash, including the captain of the German warship Elizabeth, who reported that he saw a cloud of ash above Krakatoa stretching around 6 miles high. And then around 1 p.m. on August 26, a volcanic blast went off, the first in a series of increasingly powerful explosions which would erupt over the next 21 hours, culminating in a gigantic blast with a force equivalent to 13,000 times the nuclear bomb that would decimate Hiroshima in 1945. The eruption could be heard all the way from Perth, Australia, located 2,800 miles away. Its shock waves reverberated around the planet 7 times, and the blast sent a cloud of ash 50 miles into the atmosphere. Large portions of the island, including both Perbawatan and Danan, plunged underwater into the caldera to a depth of around 800 feet below sea level. All life on the island was exterminated. 9 months after the blast, scientists visited Krakatoa to investigate the aftermath and find the answer to a particular question. What came first to re-inhabit the island? The scientists reported that the only, and therefore the first animal they found on the island, was a single spider. But Krakatoa is about 25 miles from the nearest land, so how did a spider get there? Spiders use their silk for a variety of purposes, such as to capture prey, to build shelter, or to weave egg cases. But they can also use their silk to fly. This practice is known as ballooning, and this is how it works. The spider climbs to a high point and stands on raised legs, assuming a head down, abdomen up position. This movement is also referred to as tiptoeing. It then releases fine silk threads known as gossamer from its spinneret, and as the strands lengthen, they eventually form a parachute which carries the spider away with the wind. Although they appear to be less intense these days, gossamer threads can be observed across landscapes all over the world on warm days, as the spiders descend towards evenings when the air cools. Through ballooning, spiders can travel huge distances. Researchers have found spiders in the most remote of areas, in atmospheric data balloons at altitudes of 3 miles, and in the middle of the ocean, about 1,000 miles from the nearest land. However, due to the unpredictable nature of long-distance travel, a spider may find itself being dropped off into an unfavorable environment. With over 70% of the Earth's surface being covered by water, it had been assumed that this method of aerial dispersal carried high risk. A wet landing could leave you stranded and soon to drown. But Morito Hayashi and his colleagues at the University of Nottingham have shown that not only can spiders survive afloat, but they can also harness the wind to sail on the surface of water. In laboratory experiments, the behaviors of 325 adult spiders belonging to 21 species were observed in water. All of these individuals had water-repellent legs which kept them alive on both fresh and salt water. And when wind was simulated, spiders reacted by either raising their legs or their abdomens to use as sails. When spiders raised their abdomens in a handstand-like posture, it was referred to as upside-down sailing. These techniques allowed spiders to sail stably across the water's surface, even on turbulent water. The spiders also demonstrated an ability to anchor themselves in place while staying afloat. They released silk onto the water's surface, slowing down or stopping its movement completely against the prevailing wind. And when their thread touched a floating object, they could walk on the silk until they reached it. These animals did not display these behaviors while standing on solid surfaces, which suggested that these were deliberate adaptations to water. Combined with their ability to survive for long periods without food, for months at a time, sailing provides an energy-efficient method for water-trapped spiders to colonize distant habitats. But there was still one more question which remained to be answered. Spiders only seem to balloon during light winds, but their launch speeds are astoundingly quick. Even Charles Darwin made note of this interesting phenomenon while sailing on the HMS Beagle, when he saw a spider elevate its abdomen, send forth a thread, and then sail away horizontally, but with a rapidity which was quite unaccountable. And although ballooning is primarily used by spiderlings to disperse after hatching, larger individuals, including females with a body size of over half of an inch, have been observed doing so as well. It seems like gentle breezes would not be strong enough to carry these larger species, or to generate the high accelerations observed during their takeoff. Erica Morley and Daniel Robert from the University of Bristol have found an explanation for us. Spiders can sense the Earth's electric field and use it to launch themselves into the air. In their experiments, the researchers placed spiders on a strip of cardboard in the center of a polycarbonate box, isolating them from any airflow or atmospheric electricity. They then generated their own controlled electric fields at levels found under natural atmospheric conditions. In the presence of the electrical fields, spiders began to tiptoe, preparing for ballooning. Many spiders managed to take off despite being enclosed in boxes with no airflow within them. And on becoming airborne, researchers could control the spider's altitudes by switching the electrical field off and on. Turning the field off resulted in the spiders descending, and turning it on moved them back upwards. Spiders have tiny sensory hairs on their feet known as trichobothria. These hairs were already well known for detecting sound and wind. However, it was discovered that they also respond to electric fields. When spiders sense suitable flight conditions, they release silk, and the silk typically picks up a negative charge as it leaves their bodies. This repels the similar negative charges on the surfaces on which the spiders sit, creating enough electrostatic force to lift them into the air. And spiders can increase those forces by climbing to higher altitudes, whether that be branches, flowers, or blades of grass. Spiders can balloon using electrostatic forces alone, but in a natural environment, they likely use a combination of both wind and electricity to facilitate ballooning. The finding that spiders use electrostatic forces for flight is not only fascinating, but it could also provide a clue into developing new aerospace technologies. Researchers have suggested that by recreating the ballooning mechanism used by spiders, aerial devices which could travel at carefully controlled speeds and altitudes could be developed. This would also overcome the limitations of traditional aircrafts, which cannot stay in the air for sustained periods of time due to its dependency on a fixed fuel supply.